from the United States, and they're looking at storybooks from Taiwan. And what they discovered was they weren't the same. It was weird. The storybooks in Taiwan, there weren't as many smiles. There wasn't as much arousal taking place. In American storybooks, of course, as I was talking about last time, I was talking about Dr. Seuss, green eggs and ham. This guy's chasing this guy all over the place. He gets in a box, there's a fox, and there's a train, and there's the rain, and all kinds of really cool stuff. So he's chasing this guy, and he tries to get him to eat green eggs and ham, and finally he gets him to eat them, and then he says, I really like green eggs and ham, Sam I am. Whose name's Sam I am? Where in the world did that name come from? What are you doing? There is a problem. The Microsoft PowerPoint is closed. We apologize for the inconvenience. Well, thank you. Microsoft. Oh, we've got good news. Those of you who are going to be seniors soon, within the next year, we've opened up a new class called Independent Study. Site 497. I'll be teaching the class. It's going to be, you're going to have to write a thesis. Okay, you're going to have to find a theme and write a thesis. But you're not going to have to take 498 and 499 if you don't want to. If you do want to take 498 and 499, I think 98 has to do with research and 99 has to do with placement in the community. If you'd rather not do that, then go ahead and take 497. I could explain to you the evolution of how this class came to be if you want to hear it.
You'll be teaching that class?
I'll be teaching that class.
Okay.
But we still have to take 413, right?
Yeah.
What is 413?
Advanced Indigenous Research.
Yeah, because it's on there. It says,
That is the top priority course, yes.
I think so.
this is taught by Sarah.
Really? What else is in it?
So there's a change my 498 to 497.
I thought I talked about it. Okay, I guess I did. They put it in there. I voted against it. Advanced Indigenous Studies. We didn't have a research class.
Oh, that's what I said.
It's on the back. It's all on the film.
That's what I'm taking on.
Right.
I'm going to take your 497.
497. So you can either take 497, 498, or 499. They're interchangeable. One is, like I said, one's an independent study. One has to do with research, and the other has to do with placement in the community. Initially, they weren't going to open 497, but they realized that they couldn't handle all the graduates they're going to have. They're going to have up to 18 graduates this year, well, 18 to 21. So they couldn't handle that many graduates in 498 and 499, even though we're teaching both classes in Tuba City and here. So
They might have all 18 if they open up Navajo philosophy, because I know being together individuals do that to graduate.
oh, well, we got some problems. We got some interesting problems, and
So I'll probably just hang around here for like a year or so.
yeah, that's not right. We need to get rid of people as quick as we can. You don't need to stick around. I mean, just to take one damn class, that doesn't make any sense at all. So we'll try to get this stuff taken care of. If you're having problems with your advisor, now I can be an advisor, Sue can be an advisor, Tara's an advisor. Before it was just Calvin and Sarah, but now the rest of us can advise as well. So if you don't like what's going on, or they're not telling you, you don't like what they're telling you, then come and see me, or come and see Sue, or Tara, if Tara hasn't become part of the dialogue yet. And we'll see what we can do. There's just no reason to keep you guys around for an extra year. For one reason or another. I'm sorry, that's my philosophy in life. I'm trying to get rid of people as quickly as I can. No offense to anybody, okay? Well, I think if you spend 4 years in college, that's enough, or 5, but not 7 or 6. We'll try to get rid of you as fast as we can. So that's my point of view. The program is being adjusted a little bit. I didn't realize they started that advanced research class, Indigenous research class. We had a meeting last year, and we voted, and I voted against it. And somebody else voted for it, so I guess it's on the schedule. She went ahead and put it on the schedule. That's almost funny, isn't it? Not quite. Okay, well, anyway. Let's see what happens. I keep saying that. Don't worry, we're going to get you guys out of here. One way or the other, we'll get you guys out of here. So 497 has been opened up. It looks like it's going to be a really big class, but that's okay. That's okay. I can handle a big class. But you need to come to class with ideas. Don't ask me. Don't wait for me to give you an idea. You need to come to class with ideas about what you want to research. Because it's going to be a advanced reading class is what it's going to be. Or you can call it a capstone class if you like. Doesn't matter. There we are. Is that where we are? Yes, but I can't get the thing to come up. What's wrong with that?
That's where we are.
Okay. Come on. See, this is what happened last time. This is why I haven't used this. Oh, there we go. Ha! Hey, it almost worked. Okay. Don't look at it for too long, you'll have a seizure. So we were talking about the difference between Taiwanese and American kids, and the storybooks that they read, and the type of stuff that's in the storybooks. We all want to get you guys out of here. I guess that didn't sound very good, did it? We all want you guys to graduate. So, don't worry, we'll get you out of here. And hopefully you won't have to take an extra class. One of the problems we were having before, we couldn't get anybody to have an overloaded class. People were capping their classes at 18 or 21 or whatever. Then we started paying them extra money, and then they started complaining about all the extra money they had to pay. So our program just exploded. And all of a sudden we had over 100 students. We were the largest program on the reservation. And it's back in the military. Come on!
It just doesn't want to work.
I know. There we go.
Just hold it right there. Top.
All right. Okay. I'm not gonna. Okay. Here we go. Get rid of it. Get rid of it.
See, we need to just have an open discussion. It's not working.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have an open discussion about Taiwan. The
Yeah.
researchers discovered that European American preschool children preferred pictures of excited faces more than the Taiwanese preschoolers did, and they also felt more similar to the characters who were engaged in high arousal activities. So one of the things we're going to discover is that that Westerners like to be aroused. They like hot music. They like blues that really gives them a lot of emotions. So if we look at people from collectivist countries, one of the things we see is that they would rather see low arousal. They're not looking for high arousal. Now here's the bizarre part. When they looked at religion, one of the things they discovered is that a lot of collectivist countries, their level of arousal with their religion is very low. So if you look at Buddhists, you look at Hindus, you look at, which is, all of a sudden you've taken in like half the population of the world just by looking at Hindus and Buddhists. These people are looking for low arousal. This is Don Robinson. You know Don? That's funny. He's so funny. I used to have conversations with him. He was my neighbor, and I tried to get him in an argument, but Don won't argue. I mean, you can't get him going at all. He's terrible. Anyway, he's real. And he meditates. He went to a school in Iowa, strangely enough. Anyway, so Christians are looking for high arousal, and Buddhists and Hindus are looking for low arousal. If we look at pictures of Buddha, I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of Buddha. Buddha never has his eyes open. He's always got his eyes closed. Whether he's standing up or he's sitting down or he's laying down or whatever, reclining Buddha, we see these things from time to time. He never has his eyes open. He's always meditating. But that's Buddha. But Christians, on the other hand, a lot of Christians are whacked out. I mean, they're really wild. They go to church to have a hootenanny and stuff. Like, they go to church and they do things like throw rattlesnakes at each other. You think I'm kidding? These guys live in Tennessee and northern Alabama and northern Mississippi. They play with the rattlesnakes during the services. They figure that if they're bitten by the rattlesnake and they die, then God wanted them to die. But if they're pure, then the rattlesnake won't bite them. That's logical, isn't it? Let's all play with rattlesnakes. Okay, anyway. Of course, Buddhist religious practice, there aren't that many of these rattlesnake handlers in the world, but they do exist, and they are in the mountains of Kentucky, as interesting as that is. And they sing really loud. If you've ever been around Baptists, they sing really loud. The Methodists are big at singing. Whereas if you go to a Buddhist temple, you don't make any noise at all. You kind of sit there and meditate. So some religions are looking for high arousal and some are looking for low arousal. Okay, so then we looked at European Americans, and we tried to determine what they want to do. So if you watch television and you watch some of these advertisements for, I don't know, sandals or something, any of these resorts, they're always sliding down slides and they're paragliding and doing all kinds of wild stuff. Well, that works in the United States because, we're Westerners and we're looking for excitement. We're looking for high arousal. We want to do stuff. There's even an advertisement on television about Advil, I think. It's one of the painkillers, and they want you to keep doing all your exercises and wild stuff. And they have all these old farts out there, jumping around and hang gliding. And they have that jet thing where they shoot water out of a hose and it shoots you up in the air. Doesn't that sound like fun? Anyway. However, if we look at the collectivist people, those people out there, the people that are Asian Americans, people from Asia, if you've ever been around tourists, the Asian tourists, they just want to take a picture of something. They don't want to walk too far. They want the bus to park right beside where it is. So if they ever came out to Canyon de Chelly, they wouldn't want to get out of the bus. They would want to take pictures from the windows. I mean, they wouldn't want to walk at all. That's just the way they are. So if they're on a tour bus, they want the tour bus to park right beside where they have to take the picture. As interesting as that is. Anyway. But as Americans, of course, we don't mind walking up and down and doing things. We're more active. We're looking for high arousal.
We went to Vegas over the summer, and there was a tourist bus that came from Asia. And we were standing in the front row.
Right.
They didn't mind pushing you over and putting your hand, their hand around you,
and having their picture taken.
Yeah. It was so weird.
Yeah.
I have a cousin that I went with, and he's a big guy, and he's like, "What is she doing?"
And she was handling it.
Yeah.
Well, she just wanted her picture taken. Maybe she thought he was part of the scenery or something. I don't know. They are real funny about those kinds of things. Of course, I already played you Quiet Riot. This is the lead singer. He's dead. He didn't overdose. He poisoned himself on cocaine. He died of cocaine, of too much cocaine. And everybody thought that that was impossible, but evidently it's not. Cocaine's not supposed to be that destructive, but he actually took so much cocaine it killed him. And it wasn't an overdose, because you can't overdose on cocaine. Cocaine is a vasoconstrictor, so the more you take in, the more constricted your blood vessels get, and the less it gets actually into your system. But evidently I don't know what he did, but he died of cocaine ingestion, I guess. He's dead. Anyway, that's Quiet Riot. That was, I could play you the song. They only had one hit. No, they had two hits. Bang Your Head and Come Feel the Noise. Yeah, all you girls and boys. Girls rock your boys. I haven't quite figured that one out. One of the better songs of all time. Among Westerners, interpersonally disengaging acts feel especially good. Subjective well-being is associated with positive feelings. People operate under the implicit theory that more positive feelings are better. Positive emotions serve as a bulwark against depression, and high arousal positive emotions are preferred. And that's one of the reasons why the Trump rallies are so popular with people that like Donald Trump. Because they get to yell, they get to scream lock her up, even though that whole deal's out off the table. They're not going to lock up Hillary Clinton, I don't think. Not in the near future anyway. However, among East Asians, interpersonally engaging acts feel especially good. Subjective well-being is associated with appropriate role behaviors. People operate under the implicit theory that it is good to experience both positive and negative feelings. Positive emotions are not associated with less depression, and low arousal positive emotions are more sought after. So Americans are looking for arousal, and Asians are not. They're not looking for high arousal. Let me see if I can do this without destroying something. All right, let me see if this pops up. Canceled everything. Okay, the next chapter is a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun with it because it has to do with interpersonal attraction. Who are we attracted to anyway? And why are we attracted to those people? What's wrong with us? Or what's right with them? I guess that's the question we have to ask ourselves. So this one's about interpersonal attraction in close relationships. And one of the things we're going to discover is what beauty is. Obviously, beauty is brass rings around your neck. Hotsy-totsy, yeah. Isn't she attractive? Aren't they attractive? Look how happy this child looks. Evidently somebody just killed her dog or something. Among the Padawang of the Thai mountains, women elongate their necks by several inches by inserting a number of brass rings around their necks as they grow up. And this is the mother and this is the daughter. And as you can see, she doesn't have as many, and the mother has a lot. So does it make the neck longer? Actually, it doesn't make the neck longer at all. All it does is push down the shoulders. Is what it's doing. It's depressing the clavicle. And that's why it looks like they have longer necks. Now, if you like women with longer necks, and obviously they do in the Thai mountains, then there you go. This is how to do it. Now, this isn't the only beauty in the world. We have other ideas about what beauty is. Among the Mercy of Ethiopia, women stretch their lower lips by inserting progressively larger ceramic discs in a hole that has been cut through their lip. And as you can see, this is what it looks like when they don't have the disc in. And this is what it looks like when they have the disc in. Now, why that's attractive? I don't know. Well, it's not for me to say, is it? I'm not a Mercy man or whatever. And as you can see, I don't know if I'd like that guava skin flapping against my chin if I was going to kiss somebody. I don't know how she kisses anyway. And maybe they don't kiss at all. Maybe they don't. I don't know.
What about the men? They don't have any?
Men are ugly. Didn't you know? Hadn't you heard? Mentawai women from Indonesia file their teeth into sharp points so they have smiles not that different from a shark. And this is what it looks like. Ha, hubba, hubba. That's what I'm looking for, a lady with sharp teeth. No? I don't know. Okay, maybe not. There you go. You like tattoos? Here you go. Ainu women of northern Japan often tattoo their faces in what looks like a mustache around their lips. There you go. Women with mustaches. Okay. Woo-wee. There you go. See, you don't have to wear lipstick because she's got all of her lips are tattooed. And she's got just a mustache tattooed on her upper lip. I don't know. Looks pretty good to me. There I am. Okay. Western women darken their eyelashes with mascara. They trim their eyebrows and they paint their lips with lipstick. This is a former student of mine. As you can see, she's got jewelry. Anyway, in her cheeks. I have no idea what that's all about. She was my student for 4 years. She has a YouTube video. She puts up YouTube videos about how to do makeup. Anyway, she liked to have her picture taken with me. I could never figure out why. I guess probably because she looks so much better than I do. Anyway, she's Hispanic. She's from Chicago. She wants to be my fourth wife. That's what she said. That's what she said. She's like, I don't know, she's 22 or 23 years old. I'm thinking, what do you think? Edison, what do you think? Should I marry a 22 or 23-year-old? I don't know. She's pretty good looking, I guess.
She just wants you for your retirement.
You want to get here's the fourth time.
I have other pictures. She likes to take selfies. Selfies, yeah, with me. Usually when I was in my Halloween costume, which I will be dressing up for Halloween on a week from tomorrow. All right, there you go. And I'll probably be the only person in the whole damn building who's dresses up for Halloween, and that's okay. It doesn't bother me a lot. I may start crying, but don't feel bad. It's not so bad. Just
Are you
because,
going to call one of us out? Just kidding.
just because I'll be the only one with me.
I'm just kidding.
What is your costume?
You'll see on Wednesday. So what kind of faces are thought to be attractive? There seems to be a striking agreement around the world. So if we look at women around the world, they look the same, kind of, in an odd sort of way. Skin that looks free of blemishes, blotches, sores, and rashes is viewed as more attractive than skin that does not have any of that. They first discovered this in 1951. Then they did the study again in 1986, and they found exactly the same thing. So everybody thinks that the same people are attractive. So if you go to Japan and look at a movie and look at their actresses in Japan, and then you go to India and look at the actresses in India, Bollywood, or you go to Saudi Arabia, or wherever you want to go, their concept of beauty is almost identical, except in one place. It gets kind of interesting. People care so much about their skin because people tend to be attracted to healthy mates who would likely produce healthy offspring that would survive. Now this is kind of a theory. We're looking for somebody to reproduce with. So even if you're not even thinking about reproducing, you're still looking for somebody who potentially is a good mate, would potentially make good babies. That's what you're looking for, as interesting as that is. Or not. So those of you who have reproduced, potentially that's exactly what you were looking for. And even if when you decided that you were going to be with that person, you weren't even thinking about reproduction, it still turned out that way. We are still all attracted to the same people. as confusing as that is. But he gets better. People usually don't think about selecting healthy mates, but their unconscious preferences for traits that are associated with health have been guided by natural selection. So we do it anyway, even if we don't even think about it. We were talking about pheromones the other day in class. It turns out only about a third of the population, or about 2/3 of the population, can even detect pheromones. So where does that leave the other 1/3? Well, that's a good question. Where does that leave that 1/3? Well, they obviously aren't selecting people by their odor. They're selecting people using other criteria. And the criteria tends to be the same wherever you go. So healthy skin is very important. Healthy looking skin. Responding to the apparent health of the skin could thus be a useful heuristic for sizing up the health of one's potential mate and the ancestral environment. The reality is that the way that you smell, if you put off pheromones, your pheromones actually will will communicate with the other individual what your immune system looks like. Really? Pheromones have something to do with the immune system? Yeah, that's the way it turns out. They did a study in, I told you about the 2 studies, but I didn't explain what was going on. They did 2 studies. They did one in Switzerland and they did one in Philadelphia. And they had men wear t-shirts without any deodorant, and then they put them in a plastic bag. So they had the man stink on them. And then they had women smell the t-shirts. And what they discovered was, if the woman found the odor that the man put off as attractive, that it repaired flaws in her immune system. So she was detecting his immune system by his odor, through his odor. As interesting and confusing as that is. So we were talking about this, and we were watching those shows, and we determined that it was probably European Americans that do this. And it's probably African Americans that do it as well. So where does that leave everybody else? Well, Asians, the Japanese don't put off pheromones because they've had arranged marriages for an extended length of time. The Koreans mask their odors with garlic, as they eat a lot of garlic. So it comes out in their pores. Oh God, does it ever come out in their pores? Has anybody ever eaten kimchi? You weren't in Korea. You didn't go to Korea? Oh, kimchi, I'll tell you what. You can tell a half mile away that somebody's been eating kimchi. As interesting as that all is. So the whole point is that there are a lot of different things that give us information. So potentially the smell of somebody, if you find the smell of the opposite sex is attractive, potentially that individual corrects a flaw in their immune system. They correct a flaw in your immune system. So if you did things, if you just selected somebody by the person that you wanted to be with, potentially the odor has something to do with it. If you found their odor offensive, then you probably wouldn't want to be with them. Right? I'm guessing. If you found somebody stinky. I had a student that was, she had 6 kids with this guy. She had 6 kids with him. And she said, while she thought he'd smell wonderful until she got pregnant. As soon as she got pregnant, she thought he would make her sick. But his smell would make her sick. So she'd make him sleep out on the floor when she was pregnant. But only when she was pregnant. The rest of the time she found his odor very attractive. Well, obviously she had 6 babies, but the rest of the time, and that's what they also discovered. Women who were taking birth control pills. Of course, that mirrors pregnancy. Women that were taking birth control pills, they found people that had a similar immune system to them attractive, rather than people that had corrected their immune system. So all of this stuff is, it's all a toss-up. So is it real or is it not real? And the answer is, well, a third of the people can't smell this stuff anyway. So for a third of the population of the world, potentially, they don't react to it, but 2/3 of the population do react to it. Okay, so we're selecting somebody that's attractive. A second characteristic, so clear skin is important. This is just stuff that we're looking at. This is stuff that is conscious. Of course, odors are mostly unconscious. We don't even think about odors. But if somebody is smelly, if somebody is stinky, then you don't want to be with them. Has anybody ever been with somebody that was really stinky? I mean, really nasty stinky? Couldn't stand to be around them. They stunk so bad. Nobody? Really? Of course not. So what you do is you can mask odors with all kinds of perfumes and whatnot, parfums, and I don't know what that stuff is. Anyway, I don't like it. Anyway, so we wear deodorant, of course. A second characteristic that appears to be universally viewed as attractive is bilateral symmetry. We are most attracted to people whose left sides of their faces and bodies look identical to their right sides. So we're looking for symmetry. Now what does symmetry have to do with anything? As it turns out, the left side of your body and your right side of your body, they are developed differently. They're developed apart and then they grow together. That's the way it works. I know. That's why if you've ever seen somebody with a hair lip, with a deviated palate, it's because things didn't come together quite right. That's what a hair lip is. So we're looking for symmetry. We're looking for the left side being the same as the right side. Bilateral symmetry is an indicator of developmental stability. Given ideal growing conditions, and organisms' right and left side will develop identically, which means that the mother didn't go through any trauma during her pregnancy, during the 9 months that she was carrying the baby. So we're looking for symmetry. This is Paris Hilton, I think. I think it's Paris Hilton. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I know this guy. That's Brad Pitt. As you can see, all three of his pictures look pretty much the same. They're not that different. So evidently, while he was developing in the womb, his mother didn't have to go through very many traumas, so that his left side and his right side look just about the same. This is what he looks like originally, and his left side and his right side look about the same. So his symmetry is really good. So we find that attractive, and of course, a lot of people find Brad Pitt attractive. There is evidence that people prefer symmetrical faces more than asymmetrical ones, and it has been found in all cultures studied. Not just some cultures, but all cultures. Everybody's looking for symmetry. We're all looking for symmetry. The preference for symmetry is even stronger in hunting-gathering populations, such as the Hazda of Tanzania. They're looking for symmetry more than anybody else. Mainly because they can't afford to make babies that won't survive, because they live in a hunting and gathering culture, and life and death is that close to each other. A third characteristic of attractive faces is that they tend to be average. Oh, wait a minute. So we've got symmetry, we've got clear skin, and we have average faces, so that's what we're looking for. Facial features that are close to average in size and configuration are perceived as most attractive. If you've ever been around somebody with a really big nose, it's unique. Big noses are unique. Big ears are unique. But we're looking for average. Who's got a big nose? Barbra Streisand. That's not that big. I was thinking Barbra Streisand. Not only that, but it curves. It's kind of interesting. Who was the other person that had a curved nose? Jennifer Grey. Jennifer Grey was in Dirty Dancing. And she had that cute little curved nose, and everybody was just gaga over her. So she decided she didn't like her nose. So she decided she'd have a nose job done. And when she did, nobody recognized her because she took the hump out of her nose. And before, she looked different from everybody else. Now all of a sudden she started looking the same as everybody else. So if you watch Dirty Dancing and you're looking for Jennifer Grey, and you see a movie later that Jennifer Grey is in, after she had her nose job, you can't even tell it's her. You don't even know who it is. She was in a television show and she complained about the fact that people ignored her after she had her nose job because she looked just like everybody else. So we're not really looking for unique. What we're looking for is average. So if you think about your high school years and all the attractive people that were in your high school, and you think about their faces, how many of them had big ears and how many of them had big noses, and how many of them had big lips or something, or big chins or no chin at all. You know, how many of the very attractive people had those characteristics? And the answer is probably none. You were seeing attractive as average faces. I'm not here to say who is good looking and who's not good looking. That's not my job. Men tend to prefer youthful features in women. Youthful features have to do with, as you can see, this is a child's face. This woman's face, a very attractive woman, looks very similar to the child's face. Small chin, full lips, small nose, big eyes. This is known as neoteny. In other words, you're looking for somebody who looks youthful. Neoteny. So when we look for women, we're looking for women that have baby faces, children's faces. If you look at old movies, you look at the famous actresses of the 30s and 40s, especially the actresses in silent films. Most of them had baby faces. They had big round faces with small features, relatively small features. Well, that's the way a baby looks, with big eyes, very big eyes. Who am I thinking of? The lady the blonde. I'm not Carol Lombard. What was her name? Jean Harlow. Big round face, small features, relatively small features, really blonde hair. Women prefer some masculine features in their men. This is a picture that I found. It was men with man buns, but is that what they call those things on those knobs of hair on the back of their heads? But all these men have masculine features. And they can actually accentuate the masculine features by growing a beard, because one masculine feature is a prominent chin. So if you don't have a prominent chin, all you have to do is grow a beard, and it looks more prominent. And that seems to be what's going on these days. Men are growing at least some hair on their face, whether they have a full beard or not. And some people are growing just really long beards, like ZZ Top. You know, I don't know, maybe that's just happening in the Midwest. But you're wandering around Walmart in Maquoketa, Iowa, and all of a sudden you've got like every third guy's got a beard down to his belly button. Thinking, oh God, that's ugly. I'm thinking, oh God, that's ugly, because it gets thinner as it gets longer and longer. Anyway, so this is what male features look like. They have to be masculine. Prominent chin is one feature. I don't know what else is there. Man buns. People with average size features are less likely to have genetic abnormalities than people with deviant features. Large noses, large eyes, large ears. Well, large eyes are okay. Humans can quickly process something that resembles a prototype, and quick processing is associated with good feelings and feelings of attraction. So the more average you look, the faster that you can process somebody's face, the better you feel about that person. If you have to look at them and concentrate on them and think about what their features are, if you have to think about it, then you're thinking, hey, they're different from me. And this is one of the reasons why people of different races, somebody from another race, we look at their faces longer. And the reason we look at their faces longer is because we're trying to see a prototype in their face. as interesting as that is. Okay. Whoops, went the wrong direction. There we go. I showed you women. Woman from India, Japan, African American, Samoan, Peruvian, Swedish, Ethiopian, Uzbeki. Somebody from Uzbek. And there's the men. Czech Republic, the Philippines, Hungary, Italy, China, white American, African American, Uzbekistan. So would you get somebody from Hungary mixed up with somebody who's from the United States? Do they look different? They kind of do, don't they? Somebody from the Czech Republic. All these guys are white. Italy, I guess that's white too. Uzbekistan is not, it's Asian. So, I don't know. It gets better. When researchers started mixing facial features of different racial groups, they discovered that people found the results more attractive than the pure racial groups. Oh, great. Now this is weird. The opposite sex found faces of Eurasian and biracial faces most attractive of all. How confusing is that? So where we had mixing of races, like in Indochina, in Vietnam, some of the most attractive women in the world live in Vietnam. Why? Because they're part Asian and part Western. They are Eurasian, and that she's Eurasian. Mixing races like Halle Berry. Halle Berry's mother is white, her father is black. And of course Halle Berry has been touted as one of the most beautiful women in the world. So when we start mixing races, all of a sudden we get more attractive people. This guy was just on television last night. He's on SWAT. I can't remember his name. Anyway, he's black and white. He has a black father and a white mother, I think. This is Keanu Reeves, odd name. He's half Japanese. He's partially Japanese. He's Portuguese. He's mostly white, but he's got Japanese ancestry. So why is he so much more attractive than everybody else? Well, is he? I guess that's the question. Keanu Reeves. It's not certain why multiracial faces are perceived as attractive. One account is that people should be attracted to genetic diversity as a marker of healthy genes. So one of the things we're looking for, and this is one of the reasons why clans are so important to the Navajo, is so that you don't marry, so you don't mix. You need to make sure that you don't make babies with somebody that is from your same genetic structure. That's what the whole clan system is all about. That's why they try to keep you away from people that are similar to you. That's why they refer to them as your brothers and sisters and cousins. They don't want you to marry your brothers and sisters and cousins. So maybe that's why we find biracial people so attractive, because it means that they have a different they have a different genetic structure. Now, if that were true, of course, then we wouldn't have any races. All the races would be gone. We wouldn't have black people. We wouldn't have yellow people. Well, actually, we don't have yellow people. We wouldn't have Asians. We wouldn't have Micronesians. We wouldn't have all of these people. Everybody would be just mixed up, and we wouldn't have to care about races. So why do we care about race? Why is race so important? Why do we even talk about it? Wouldn't it be better if everybody were just all mixed up and we didn't have to even think about it? Why do we think about races? Who came up with that idea? If you go to Brazil, they've got like 23 different races. Just you're thinking, wow, really? How can you tell? So who came up with the idea of races?
The caste system.
The Catholics?
Caste.
A caste system. Okay, a caste system like they have in India.
Yeah.
Can you look at somebody in India and tell what caste they are? Kinda. The darker they are, the lower their caste. I know, it's kind of bizarre. So the lighter complexion they are, the higher their caste, as confusing as that is. In Japan, it's kind of the same way. If you have a suntan in Japan, the Japanese women, this is weird. We were in Japan, and these ladies are dumping our trash, and they've got hats on that come out to here. They're wearing gloves. They've got long sleeve shirts, and it's hot outside. And these ladies were covered. There wasn't an inch of skin that wasn't covered, and it was so that they wouldn't get a suntan. That was the idea, as bizarre as that seems. So the darker complexion they were, that meant the lower their status, because they have to work outside, and if you work outside, you get dark. Which makes white Americans just the strangest people in the world, because we go outside, we spray tan. I mean, that's what Donald Trump does. He sprays himself with orange paint. I don't know. He looks like a Oompa Loompa sometimes. So this is weird. Who came up with the whole concept of race? Well, it turns out that it was the Brits. That's weird. What's wrong with those guys? The French didn't care. The French will have sex with everybody, anybody. They didn't care. But the Brits were real sensitive to that stuff. So they didn't want people mixing. They wanted, and if you look at England, what's going on in England? Well, something weird that happened in England was they got conquered by like everybody and their cousin. They got conquered by they were Celts to begin with. They were conquered by the Germans, the Romans, the Vikings came through and left babies. It's usually lots of weird people came through. And then the Normans conquered them. The Normans were actually Vikings, but the Normans spoke French. So here we've got all these people, and the Brits pretend that they're pure? Come on. Pure what? They're all mixed up. Okay, so we've got this genetic structure that we have to think about. Multiracial represents the best average of all faces, the faces that people have encountered in their lives, and of course that's what we're looking for. The attractiveness of average features does not seem to generalize well to perceptions of bodies. So we're looking for extreme cases as far as bodies are concerned. So once upon a time there was an actor by the name of Arnold Schwarzenegger, who played Conan the Barbarian. Who else did he play? He was
Terminator.
He was the commander. Yeah, he was a Terminator. That's right. He was a Terminator. A guy with really big muscles. I mean, he was pretty strong. And this was before people really lifted weights that much or took that many steroids. Now he's not in very good shape. So he was a famous actor. He was a popular actor. He was very popular. Who's the actor that makes the most money in Hollywood right now? The Rock. It's The Rock. That wrestling guy. What race is he? He's so mixed up. He has African American. He's got Samoan. Yeah, he's got white. Somewhere in there somewhere. Anyway, then he shaved his head. I haven't figured out. The bald-headed guy is the most popular guy in Hollywood. That makes sense. The Rock, most popular actor in Hollywood today. So this is really kind of interesting. So what are we looking for in women? Have we ever had women that were strangely shaped, who were the most popular actresses in Hollywood? Not really. Mae West was kind of large on top, but she wasn't really that popular. Dolly Parton's pretty big, but she's not a very popular actress. So what kind of actor? Who has been popular? Julia Roberts, Sandra Bullock, Jennifer Aniston. pretty average. All those people are fairly average. It does not seem to be true that people are most attracted to those of average weight, height, and muscle mass, breast and hips size. Not really. So it really all depends. And if you're looking for males, who in the world is the individual that wants The Rock to be the most popular actor in Hollywood? Is it males or females? Do women find The Rock attractive? Do men want to be him? Is that why they go to his movies? He was in a movie called something about Tooth Fairy. He was in the Tooth Fairy movie. Did you see that? Great movie. The Rock dressed up with wings. Light blue outfit. It was quite attractive. I don't know, is it men or is it women that are attracted to The Rock? The kinds of bodies that tend to be seen as most attractive are often those that depart considerably from the average, and of course, the person we're talking about, the two people we're talking about, Arnold Schwarzenegger and The Rock. Jake Gyllenhaal, when he was the Persian Prince, I can't remember what the movie was. He was in fairly good shape. He was in pretty good shape. Ryan Reynolds, when he played, who did he play? Was he the Green Lantern or something? Yeah, or whatever. Pretty good shape. However, not everybody in the world is looking for the same thing. In West Africa, the term fat is often viewed as complimentary, indicating strength and beauty, and that is from a study by Cassidy in 1991. Similarly, African American women in the United States seem to be heavier than other women in the United States, especially European American women. And they feel less social pressure toward thinness. It's very rare to see an African American woman that is suffering from anorexia. It's very common to see a European American woman that has anorexia. But it's very rare to see an African American woman that has anorexia. The most famous African American woman right now is probably the tennis player. Well, there's two of them. Who are they? Venus and Serena Williams. There you go. Okay. And Venus just had a baby, didn't she? She just had a baby, and then she just lost that match. You get all upset. That's too funny. Another aspect of interpersonal attraction is the propinquity effect. People are more likely to become friends with people with whom they frequently interact. Absence makes the heart grow fonder? Not really. The farther away you are, the harder it is to maintain a relationship. And of course, I'm doing that right now with my wife. And this is tough. This really hurts a lot. If I leave you guys, the only reason I'm leaving is because I'm lonely for my wife. That makes sense, doesn't it? Can anybody blame me? You want me to stay here? My wife's in Iowa. It's 2 days away. We can't even meet on the weekends. Well, maybe we could.
Meet halfway.
We could meet, that's out in the city. We could almost do it. It's like a 14-hour trip, but what am I going to do with the dogs? I know. What's she going to do with her dog? This is a terrible problem. So we can't even meet halfway in between. When she was stationed in Indiana and I was in Nebraska, we used to meet in Davenport, Iowa. It only took about 8 hours to get there. And we did it like every other weekend. We would drive for 8 hours just to see each other. Propinquity. Propinquity means close to somebody. So the people that you are the closest to are the people that you are the most likely to interact with. So they did a study. They were looking at cops, policemen. Policemen are kind of mean guys. I don't know if you've ever been around a cop, a policeman. They're kind of rough and tumble. They're kind of mean, just a little bit maybe. Okay. So they looked at the relationships between policemen. It was really kind of a fascinating piece of research. They were looking at the friendships that they developed at the police academy. The simple fact of who stood next to whom was more important in influencing police recruits' selection of friends than their personalities, their backgrounds, and their religious beliefs. So just because somebody's a Mormon doesn't mean that they would pick other Mormons to be their best friends. It was who they stood beside. And usually they arranged people by height at the police academy, just like they do in the military. They arrange you by height. So the person that you stood beside is the most likely person that you would become friends with, no matter what their personalities were. It's the guy that you were right beside, no matter what your background was. If one guy was rich and one guy was poor, it didn't make any difference. Religion, you think that religion is really important. The Baptists only want to be around Baptists, and Mormons only want to be around Mormons, and Seventh-day Adventists only want to be around Seventh-day Adventists. But the reality was, it didn't really matter what their religion was. It's who they stood beside. Is that not the most bizarre thing in the world? So here we have Sharon and Tiffany sitting beside each other, which makes them friends. Congratulations. As weird as that may be. One reason that the propinquity effect works is because of a phenomenon known as the mere exposure effect. The mere exposure effect is really kind of interesting, and I proved this in social psychology by playing opera. How many people like opera? I hit a big zero, didn't I? Don't you love a good aria? No? Okay. So what I do is I play an aria for people, and I'll play one a couple times, and then I'll just play a new one, and I'll ask them which one they like the best. And normally they like the one that they've heard before. I know. Mere exposure effect. So if you're listening to a song and you hear it the first time, you think, boy, this is crap. And then you hear it the second time, you think, well, it's not that bad. Then you hear it the third time, you go, you know, there's some good parts in that song. There's some really good parts in that song. What was I watching the other day? Easy A. If you've ever seen the movie Easy A with what's her name? Her grandmother sends her a card and it's got a song in it. She opens it up and she says, oh, that's crap. And she throws it down. And as the weekend goes on, she plays it more and more, and all of a sudden she's dancing to it. And then it becomes her ringtone on her telephone. She makes it her ringtone. Mere exposure effect. The more we are exposed to a stimulus, the more we are attracted to it. This has been shown to be true for attraction to other people, foreign words, music, and a variety of inanimate stimuli. And this we used to see this in the military. If somebody was on an isolated tour someplace, and there weren't very many males and females to go around, a lot of times a guy would end up with a wife. He'd leave that base with a wife. And it might not have been the wife that he would have picked if he were in the States, but because it was an isolated tour, and because they were around this person, because that was the only female that he interacted with, all of a sudden he fell in love and got married. And we saw it over and over and over and over again. I had a lady that was chasing me. I know, it seems so weird to me too. I had this lady who was chasing me. She'd just gotten a divorce. Well, she'd had 3 divorces. This lady, she lived in Lubbock, Texas, and she worked at the base. And she wasn't that attractive, but she worked real close with guys, with other guys. And when they got there, they would stay there for, it was usually a 2 or 3 year tour. So by the time that they had sat beside her for a year or so, they'd fall in love and they'd get married. But then when they shipped out, she'd divorce him, and then she'd marry somebody else. She didn't want to leave Lubbock. As stupid as that is, Lubbock's the most god-awful place in the world. But here she kept marrying guys, and she started chasing me. I don't know why. I was taller than her. Not a whole lot of women that I'm that much taller than. Anyway, so she started chasing me, and I didn't. Don't worry, Sharon, I didn't succumb. It was But she was kind of weird. I won't tell you the rest of the story. I didn't get married to her though. So she wasn't one of my 3 wives. The mere exposure effect appears to be a cultural universal. Japanese and Americans appear to be equally likely to come to like those people with whom they interact most frequently with, and that is according to Heine and Renshaw. You may recognize the name Heine. He is the author of your book. He's also married to a lady from Japan. So he does a lot of research with the Japanese. People tend to be attracted to those who are most like themselves. This is known as similarity attraction effect. And so if you look at a family, a lot of times you'll see, and you look at who married whom, well, a lot of times you'll see not only that the people look alike that they married, but they also have about the same color hair. It's weird. Blondes marry blondes. Not just in one generation, but generation after generation after generation after generation. And this is one of the reasons why, if you look at all these genetic studies that are going on, all this DNA stuff that people are looking at, this is one of the reasons why you see 56% English. Well, this is me. 56% English. I'm 36% Western European. 56% English. Now, we've been in the United States for 400 years. So why are Brits marrying other Brits? What's going on? I mean, couldn't they find anybody with a little, darker hair? Everybody in my family's got like light brown hair. What's going on here? Just because you're in the United States, and just because you're of English ancestry, doesn't mean you have to marry somebody that's from England. That doesn't even make sense. But so who are we attracted to? We're attracted to people that look like us. We're attracted to people that act like us. Other Brits. So 56% of my ancestry is English. And 36 is Western European. That's not a whole hell of a lot of diversity if you think about it. I'm about the whitest guy you can possibly imagine. I've got like 9% Irish, 36% Western European, and 56% English. Well, there's a mixture for you. There's nobody in my ancestry that's looking for anybody exotic, obviously. My goodness gracious. As strange as that may seem. So my wife said that she was part American Indian. My first wife. The one I made babies with. She said she was part American Indian. And I believed her. Well, of course I believed her. I'll believe in practically anything. So it turns out my son had his DNA checked, and guess what? Guess where she's from? England, Western Europe, and Italy. It turns out that the darkness in their skin, in my kid's skin, is Sicilian. I know. And she said she was American Indian. Liar.
Cherokee?
Cherokee, exactly. Actually, she said she was Chickasaw, which isn't a bad tribe to be a member of, because the Chickasaw, they own like half the casinos, Indian casinos in the United States. I know they own casinos in North Dakota. They're from Alabama and Mississippi, and of course they're mostly in Oklahoma, but they own casinos in Montana and Idaho and all over the place. North Dakota. Yeah. Which is kind of nice if you think about it. At least they're spreading the wealth around to other tribes. Kind of. Anyway, similarity attraction effect. Much research has shown that people are more likely to view someone as attractive either as a potential friend or a romantic partner if both are similar in their attitudes, their economic background, their personality, their religion, their social background, and activities. And I think I've told you the story. I probably have told you the story that we didn't go to church. And for that reason, of course, I couldn't say, well, I am a Methodist. I couldn't say I'm a Lutheran. I'm not that unattractive. I had girlfriends, and a lot of them, well, I've only been married 3 times, a lot of them said they wouldn't marry me because they didn't like my lack of religion. Didn't have anything to do with me because of my lack of religion. So religion is really important, if you think about it. Isn't it? Or is it? Is religion
Well, I
important?
guess it depends on the person.
What do you do on Sundays? If one guy's going one way and the other guy's going to another church down the road, you know, to the south. I guess I was really lucky that my current wife married me because she's a real staunch Presbyterian. She married me anyway, despite the fact. But there was a lady that didn't even go to church. This lady didn't even go to church. And she said, you know, I'd never marry you because you don't go to church. And I'm saying, we don't go to church either. She said, well, maybe not, but at least I believe in God. I couldn't argue that. She did believe in God. I will admit she did believe in God. I know. And I know where she is, too. I've been following. I've been making sure I know where she is. She's in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It's not like I'm stalking her or anything. I mean, that was like 50 years ago, okay? But I do know where she is. One lady that I would have stalked is my second wife, but I don't know where she is. I don't even know what her name is now. She's been married so many times, I have no idea. So I can't find her.
First name?
Oh yeah, I know her first name. It's the same as my first wife. That was close. You don't want to make a mistake. Call her by the wrong name. Whoops. Don't ever do that. It doesn't go over very well. Research has sought to determine whether North Americans or Japanese like similar or dissimilar strangers show that North Americans had a stronger attraction to a similar stranger than Japanese. In some studies, Japanese show a similarity attraction effect as well, but it is consistently weaker than the North American effect. So we're more likely to try to find people that look like us and act like us than the Japanese are. Even though the Japanese won't marry somebody who's not Japanese. Well, they will, but it doesn't happen very often. 98% of the people in Japan are Japanese. You can't even find that percentage here on the reservation, I would imagine. You think? %? 98% of the people here in Navajo on the reservation? Do you? I don't know. Researchers have discovered that the most frequent topic of conversation is gossip about other people. So we talk about other people. Luckily, I talk about myself all the time, so I don't have to talk about other people. I just talked about my ex-wife. Okay. And that other lady, her name is Sheila. Her first name is Sheila. And I know exactly where she is. She lives on Confederate Road in Fort Lauderdale. I haven't seen her since she left the base. Probably 50 years ago.
She probably has it on church.
I'm sure she doesn't have a clue who I am anyway. Studies that track people's happiness over time find that their happiest times are when they are with others. So we're not the happiest. I'm not real happy right now since I go home at night and I just sit there with nobody to talk to but the damn dogs. And you know, they don't talk very much, hardly at all. So this isn't my happiest time, but I love teaching. This is one of my favorite things. I'm not leaving, don't worry. I've already fixed things, so we're going to be okay. People's most emotionally wrenching experiences involve a breakup of a relationship and the death of loved ones. Males, when they commit suicide, and they commit suicide at a rate 4 times higher than females. Normally when they commit suicide, it's because of a breakup. As transitory as that is, how long are they going to stay alone? Well, they don't know, but they're not going to put up with it. And so they kill themselves. As strange as that may seem. Women do try to commit suicide when people break up with them, but they aren't nearly as good at it as men. Men are really good at it. They hang themselves, they shoot themselves. So it's usually if somebody commits suicide, it's over a relationship. Especially if they're males. As sad as that is. So how important are relationships? I think I asked you guys about love, right? Didn't I ask you about love? Wasn't it in here that we asked? That I talked about love? No? Okay. It must have been in another class. All right. So how important is love? I mean, really. Is it that important? No, hell no. I can do without it. I don't need anybody to love me. I don't need anybody. Is it important? It must be. I mean, if people kill themselves over it, it must be really important. This must be the most important thing in the world. Men kill each other because they both love the same woman. What did I see the other day? Well, we won't go into the women killing each other. It doesn't really happen that often. Men kill each other. Communal sharing, the members of a group emphasize their common identity rather than consider their idiosyncrasies. In communal sharing, every person is treated the same. Each has the identical rights and privileges as every other member of their group. And if you've ever been in a group where it was both males and females, in a communal group, like these swimmers here, if you've ever been in that kind of a relationship, it's really kind of interesting because they treat each other exactly the same. So the guys will treat the females the same as they treat the other guys. As interesting as that is. And a lot of people, they really enjoy that. That's one of the reasons why a lot of women enjoy being in the military. Because they're being treated the same as the guys are being treated. They're not being treated special. And they like that. It's one of the things my wife liked about the military. She stayed in for 24 years. You know? Enjoyed every second of it. And she married me. So she made mistakes, but at the same time, she had a good time while she was in the service. She not only married me, but I was enlisted and she was an officer. That's against the law. So she broke the law to marry me. How about that? I know. See how much I'm worth? I must be worth something. My wife broke the law. We broke federal law getting married. We could have been shot at sunrise. One of us could have been kicked out of the service at sunrise. Authority ranking involves the inequality. Why don't we stop right here? We'll pick this up next time, and I'll stop crying about being in